Cloud. All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're receiving this when you're hearing this. My name is Trey Tucker, and I have Yateena Young with me as well. And we're here to just kind of give a different perspective. We have a nice webinar series where we're going to be creating different topics. Well, we have created different topics, and we're going to use them as ways to connect more with our community, with the parents, with the students as well. And the first one we have on our long list of engagement opportunities is one that is called storytelling or heritage. So today we're just going to be discussing our heritage and our culture with the hopes of being able to allow people to feel more comfortable to share with their kids or with their parents or with their friends. We do feel like culture makes the world go around, especially in America. So I think one of the great things about here is that it's a melting pot, and we would love for everybody to be accommodating to other cultures and what they like, especially with the current times now. So, with that being said, I'm going to get started, and we have our wonderful presentation here, and we're going to call this We Are Who We Are. And this is by myself and Yateena Young. The reason why we are saying we are who we are is because you sometimes might not know who you are until you start to look into your ancestors and you look into your heritage and your culture, and then you might be able to find your identity in there without even realizing it. So today we're going to go through a plethora of different examples of that. So, Yatina, our next slide. Oh, here we go.
Today we're going to focus mostly on, like Trey said, who we are and what we do, because that kind of creates who we become. Our heritage and a little past, heritage and culture traditions from our perspective of why it's important, and just our final thoughts.
Awesome. So this program, this series is brought to you by the Queen Anne Nzinga Center, and we just want to give everybody who's watching just an idea of what we do and why we were created, and the importance of it. So we have a nice video here, but as you can see, Queen Anne and Nzinga Center was created to support underserved youth in Greater New Britain, Bristol, and Plainville. That's where it started. The goal is to expand it as far as it can, get as far as the reach will. And as of right now, we're in Hartford. So this is a beautiful thing to be able to bring different cultures together. And through that, we use the youth arts enrichment workshops that we have. So we have we have a Saturday program, a Thursday program where the students are able to create based on the theme of Kwanzaa principles. Right now is March, so we're in Women's Month, and shout out to all the women out there. So so some of the things that we're working on in our sessions in our workshop is just appreciating women and the trials and tribulations that they have overcome. The same thing for Black History Month. We also do live performances, storytelling, and annual concerts and events to help accomplish this mission. So I'm going to play a quick video for everyone just to kind of see what we represent and some of the things that we do here. So give me 1 second. All right. Let me just make sure it's good. I'm gonna turn it down a little bit. All right, here we go.
Growing up as a African American in the suburbs, I always understood that there was inequities, that I wasn't going to have the same privilege, opportunities as some of my friends that were white. I was surrounded by a community of people who supported my success and believed that I could be something if I just sort of figured out how to do that. The Queen Anne and Zinga Center was developed to help young people reach their fullest potential through the arts. The arts is a easy way to be successful. What you make with your hands isn't wrong, right? What you make with your heart isn't wrong. And so when you're able to experience successes in other ways, that then translates to your work and your values and your schoolwork and your ability to advocate for yourself. And our public performances then become a vehicle to share that success with the greater community. That's what makes Queen Anne unique. Children can always be successful if we tell them they are successful. It's important to do that, and particularly with marginalized populations, with Black kids, with brown kids, with LGBTQ kids. We're all part of the big community. We all have a way to contribute. So I asked, how can you contribute to the success of Queen Anne and Zinga Center? And it's share your resources, share your knowledge, share your gifts. In any way that works for you, you can go to our website and you can donate and you can volunteer and you can get to know us better. And thank you all so much for being here and for all you do.
So, as you can see, Dana Snell, who is our founder, president, and executive director, she has curated an environment where students are able to express themselves through different, various forms of art. So, that's the beautiful thing of Queen Anne and Zinga's Center, which is what we do and will be doing when we re-begin our program at MLK. And oops, sorry. Trying to skip it. There we go. So yeah, what we do is, oh, I'm sorry, Yateena, you can go ahead. I'm good. Okay. Well, what we do is we foster children's development by providing them with opportunities to connect within the community of their peers and mentors, and we learn in an Afrocentric way. So our elders are with our youngers, and our youngers are with our elders, and we do that because it helps provide just a sense of unity across the board for all ages, and a certain respect and admiration that you have. So we also discover people's individual talents. There's Nzinga's Daughters, which is a group of young, talented women who sing and perform, and they've had the pleasure to travel around the country and do all types of wonderful things through the music. I was actually talking to Dana, and she was telling me how they were able to take the group that they were doing singing, and it has taken them on, and they had a singer who had them as background singers, and they were able to tour all the way through internationally. So like Spain, Europe, France, like all these wonderful places they were able to do, and they started out in the Queen Anne and Zinga Center. So it's very cool to see some of our kids elevate, and that's what we do. So I will, Yatina, do you have anything before I go into my spiel? As far as I don't know how to go back. Go back. I'm gonna go back one more slide. If you have anything else you want to provide.
No, I think you said it all. Just heightening the importance of creating safe spaces. I think we do that pretty well. Making sure that the youth feel very safe in what we're creating and also them being there as well. That was it. But you did awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, so today's segment is about storytelling, culture, and heritage. So myself, I'm gonna be speaking for a little bit, and then Yatina's gonna go into her history and her culture. But I think the wonderful thing about this is understanding how important your past is, and just being able to understand that we all might have similar we might all have similar stories without ever having to have connected. And I think that, go ahead.
I also wanted to touch on that too, like how important it is to tell your story, like towards the end, like how important it is to know your story and to be able to share it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think that if you're able to share your story, especially with different, we had a conversation, but different cultures and ethnicities, you realize that you're more alike than you are not alike. And that's the point of what we do and why we're having this heritage and storytelling orientation is so that everyone can feel inclined. So as a parent, expressing, maybe some of the stories that you embody. I know we're all busy, we're all working, we're all doing these things, but if you ever have a moment to sit and discuss some of the things that you went through your upbringing, some of the great stories, some of the hard stories, some of the stories of your ancestors, it'll provide more clarity and better self identity for some of the students who might not have a clear path of what they want to do. So I tie all that in to say that I have experienced that. So my name is Trey Tucker, and I was born in December 9th, 1992. Sagittarius is the greatest sign in the world, if you didn't know. Um, and I'm the oldest of three. And I'm passionate about integrating music to help kids better express themselves. I feel like music is a great outlet, whether you want to do it professionally or just as a hobby. It's a great form of expression. And I was able to the great thing about it is that I was able to understand that as a child, but not really know why as a child. I always loved music, but didn't know how deeply rooted music was into my story, into my culture, in my family, and how they grew up. My parents are split, but I had both families very supportive. So my mother's side, which I'll go to the next slide. I'm sorry. My mother's side, my family roots from Virginia. Obviously, they were brought in through Atlantic slave trade, but they were brought in and they rooted in Virginia. So places like Portsmouth on my mother's side and on my father's side, on her father's side, my mom's mom, Virginia, my mom's father. Columbia, South Carolina. So my roots started in the South. My dad's family Georgia. You know what I'm saying? Like deep South. So my roots and my heritage comes from some of those old lessons and the stories that they learned. My grandmother, who's both my grandmothers actually, who are still here, I get to speak to them, and when I speak to them, they tell me about some of the things that they went through. My grandmother on my dad's side was telling me how, she used to pick certain things off trees and not far removed from slavery and seeing segregation and how it's changed over time. So it's just like a beautiful thing to hear those stories and then being able to understand where you fit in that scheme of things. So as you can see, my mom, she's an educator, teacher. Now she's a nurse. And my dad, he was in the Marines and he had a career as a CNC machinist. He made airplane parts for Stanley Black and Decker. So my family is rooted in hard workers, but I also understood how important education was to my family and with my family. And without even realizing it, I want to say by the time I turned 22, 23, 24. I realized that everything that I was being brought up under was coming to fruition. The lessons that I had to learn, the cultural experiences that I had were very important. So for here, example, the significance of Thanksgiving and Christmas for my family is deeper than just a holiday, right? Like, a lot of times black and brown families get together only for funerals or things that are not maybe as positive as you would want. I've had the pleasure to have experiences on Thanksgiving where I would be with my mother's family and we would do I'll get to that after. And then on Christmas I'll be with my father's family and I would see the difference in the two families and how they both had their own path, but they were still similar within the black experience. So understanding that I grew up in Bristol, which was predominantly, it had black and brown kids, but it was white. You know what I'm saying? It didn't necessarily tell my experience, through my culture with my family. I was never able to get lost in who I was, or what my purpose was. I maybe not didn't always know or want to accept it, but because of my father being somebody who woke up at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock actually, and didn't get home till 7 o'clock, or 8 o'clock, or if he has to do overtime, just seeing those being instilled were very important to my ethic in understanding that his family, they were hard workers. My grandmother worked for Otis Elevator for over 20, 30, 40 years. She never talks about it, but just understanding that there was a certain work ethic that was instilled in that side. Um, Also, my father being in the Marines was also something else. My mother was an educator, so when I speak about education and music and how important it is, it comes from the side of the family that has judges and politicians and teachers and principals and all these wonderful things. So that's one of the cultural elements as far as that goes. Soul food was the meal that brings my family together. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but as we know, we understand slavery and the roots of it, and how things happen the way they happen, and understanding how we had to find culture within the scraps that we were given. So in the South, where slavery was very strong and deep rooted, soul food was something that was very important in the black experience. And my family carried that on to both sides, where one family soul food is different than the other, but it's still soul food. One side of my family puts sugar in their grits, the other side of my family does not. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like in the middle sometimes. So it's kind of cool to understand how that brings people together, but understanding that, when people are able to break bread, which is what we do in the Queen Anne Nzinga Center, you're able to share those stories over meals. And you're listening to your great uncles or your grandfather or their brothers, and you get to kind of see it and feel their experience, and you get to soak it in. So that's why soul food is super important to my family. Now, I have changed my diet, so I don't try to consume a lot of pork or things that have a lot of high blood pressure, because as we grow on, we understand that maybe we can modify what soul food is a little bit differently than what it was before. It was scraps. Now we have the opportunity to kind of adjust that and show our future families how to do it in a way that's healthy. Er, I still like my mac and cheese and yams. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But um, so that's a wonderful thing. And the influence of church and its impact on me. Growing up, my grandmother on my mom's side was a deacon. My mom's father, rest in peace, he was a preacher. He was in the church, so he was heavily influenced. That's the guy that you see right here. Um, that's my grandfather, but they were all heavily in the church, and within the church, my family down here, this is some of my mother's side of the family. With the church, I didn't realize how important music was within the church experience until I actually went to church. So on my mother's side, on my father's side, the people who were in the churches, they're singing, they're doing all these wonderful things. And I didn't realize how important that would be to me until I started to do the same, but it wasn't in church, where I was making music because my passion is music. I was making music and didn't realize where it came from, but it was always in my family's lineage. Excuse me, it was a way that we used music to tell our story, or to be able to just release whatever stress or energy that maybe wasn't really serving us well. So that was huge. And to this day, I'm very heavy on spirituality and God and things of that nature. And it was deep. It was instilled in me as a child. Maybe I didn't accept it, but I know that it was always there. So it was a beautiful thing. The importance in education. Obviously, like I said, my family always push go to school, go to school, go to school. And sometimes you hear that and you don't realize that, the people that are telling you to go to school have done it already. Like I said, my one of my great my great uncles is a judge, so it's like you don't realize how important some of that stuff is until you have to do it yourself. So I think this is my last slide. So these are all I wanted to just add something that was a little funny. I just want to make sure. Okay, no, okay, all right, I'm gonna go back. Sorry, Tina. So I wanted to add something that was a little funny, just to kind of show you who my family is in this short period of time. Up here in the top left, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but in the top left corner, it's just the men of the my mom's side of the family, and we all got together and took a wonderful picture. Just to show the different generations. As you can see, you have old, you have young, but the beautiful thing is all these men in some sort of way have taught me a lesson, directly or indirectly, that I was able to take. This is in Virginia. Majority of my mom's family, like I said, is from Virginia, so I don't see them all the time. We get together for Thanksgiving, and that's the significance of it. Which kind of leads to this picture in the middle. The picture in the middle is hilarious because my family does big, I think in the black experience, card games are like important. It's competitive. It's whatever. It's Uno. It's spades. It's Monopoly. It's gin rummy. It's whatever it is, right? And I think when you grow up in a competitive household, but you understand how important these games are, some people might see them as games, but these games are like a part of your culture and heritage. So ever since I was a child, um Uno was like the game, right? Like you can't come to the Uno table, you're not old enough. Like they treated it like it was spades, like it was black, like they treated it like you have to be eligible to play at this table. So growing up your whole life, you see this family, you play, then you get a chance to actually play. And I had the chance to actually win and I won. And I was just taking pictures like it was the greatest thing in the world, which I think is pretty funny to this day because I don't play Uno with anybody else other than my family because it'll just turn into a bunch of fights. My dog is at the bottom, and she's a dog of the black household, so I don't know. I put a hat on her, and she just looked like she has the itis. I thought that was pretty cool. The top right, my excuse me, my grandfather, my dad's father is to the right, Cecil, and these are his brothers and cousins, and they had a group. Like I said, I didn't really know because I wasn't old enough to really develop a relationship with my grandfather, because he passed away before I was old enough to form really sentences as things of that nature. But you get to see kind of how important music is. They're in a group, and I'm forming groups as I'm growing up, and probably around the age of them in this picture, and I'm doing the same thing, just different generations. So it's like you don't really know your story until you get to see where you have came from, and you realize that everybody probably went through the same thing, same thoughts. So I took this picture and I was just in awe, because it was just a great, and I'm sure around this time the Temptations and all the boy bands, I don't want to call them boy bands, but the black singing groups were very important in a trend, sort of kind of how rap is. And at the bottom is my grandfather to the left. He passed away last year, and my sister sent me this picture. This was around the time of the Montgomery Ball, and my grandfather he was a comedian. He was funny, so I think my sister had told him, something, and he's like, "I'm gonna get my chair," and he went and grabbed his chair. So it just kind of shows you how, he was a principal, he was a deacon in a church, he was well educated, well spoken, but it shows how the black experience is all the same and how we are all interconnected and interwoven somewhere, somehow. So I thought this was funny, and I thought some of these pictures would kind of explain a little bit more of my heritage, hoping and wishing that parents, as you see this, you will share some of these photos and pictures with your kids to let them know that maybe they're not alone in some of the thoughts they may have. And I am speaking a lot, so I'm going to pass it over to Yatina, which she's going to tell us her story and her experiences.
I'll try to make this quick. Can you guys hear me? Or can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. And take as much time as you want because we have until 6:30, so you're good.
Um, yeah, so that was very amazing. I learned a lot about you, Trey. Um, my name is Tina Young. I'm originally from Jamaica. I immigrated here at the age of 8. I consider myself a Hartford native only because I've been here since the age of 8, and I feel like I'm technically part of the community, and I don't know anywhere else. I'm the youngest of 7, so I take that with a lot of pride being the baby of the family. I think growing up, I used to think that it was something completely disturbing because I like to do what I like to do. And as you have older siblings, they all have a little piece of like what they like to nitpick or what they have in store for you. And you already have your parents. So like just imagine that and then like 7 other people. But as I've gotten older, I've seen the importance of it, that it comes with wisdom and discernment and just having a community of people that you can actually talk to that are genuinely going to be there for you. So that was a learning lesson. I am very passionate about healing, uplifting, and educating the youth and the community. Um, some of the photos are things that I did with many different other organizations, and one of them was 54 Shades of Melanin. And that one is very close to my heart because it talks about the impact of colorism in the community and the global majority. Like the more I do it, I see that it's not just affecting our community, but it's affecting Italians, Mexicans, like wherever you are darker on the spectrum, there is always an issue. And I participated in this very, very intense course, the Obama Foundation. And I think being in um, that program allowed me to see the efforts and how small changes can make big changes if you just go about it the right way, and how grassrooting is really effective, and how it really helped one of our presidents become the first Black president of the United States. So that was pretty dope to be in that program. Next slide. Um, so my family and I am originally from Portmore, Jamaica, which is more so of the city of Jamaica. My mom is from St. Elizabeth and my dad is from Trelawney. So I've always felt like I didn't understand that growing up because I always felt like my parents were like two opposite sides. I'm like, how did they make me? Um, Really and truly, because my mom is a full devoted Christian and my dad is a Rastafarian. And if you know anything about these two, they have similarities, but the bigger thing that's supposed to make them come together, like they completely despise that. My mom loves pork. She was raised on a pig farm, so I didn't know that until she started to talk, which what I think is important to tell our stories because it talks about a lot of health issues, but if I had known that, it would like make a lot of sense. And my dad is a Rastafarian that despises pork and they don't eat pork at all. So it's like, how did they come together? One is very set on that the house or wherever your space is, that's your sense of worship. You don't have to go into a church. And then my mom is there religiously every Sunday, every New Year's. And I'm like, how did y'all make it work? But I'm guessing opposites attract because I feel like I have both of them within me. Um, the more I got older and the more I really started to listen and understand my mom, she is a big advocate and she likes to go on marches and she likes to like show up and be proud. And I honestly never really understood that. But then now that I see myself, I'm like, I definitely get that portion from her. Um, with my father, the Rastafarian culture, I don't think I really understood it until I got older and seen how much, like what Trey said, like you don't really appreciate the knowledge and the gems that they're given to you until you get older. And then now I'm seeing like I'm very similar, or your path. I think they say you don't become a Rasta, you're born one. So it's not something that you like develop over time, like it's something naturally within you. And then over time, it starts to like show up more and more. And I definitely connect with that, just seeing how I change my eating habits. They're very big on eating off the land. I like to call them the original vegans because of their meals. ITIL is very vital. And what that means, like if you're eating strong, nutritious foods that's really good for your well-being. And so seeing that coming back around, it's like, wow, I've been taught this growing up. I wish that I listened to it, but now that I'm older, I definitely incorporated a lot more. My spirituality, my groundness, definitely shows up with him. Even it's funny because I remember he passed recently, so I'm thinking about a lot of the memories. And one of them was going jogging at 5. And as a child, it was just fun being with him and not really thinking about it. My sister is a teenager, she did not join it, but I'm like thinking about, wow, he really used to get up and run, but I'm excited to just be with him, not thinking about like what he's doing that for. And then now, fast forward, that's something that I do. And I understand, like, it really helps develop your days, like if you get started. So it's like, that was pretty interesting to connect it to. Um, I mentioned he has a connection to the Asian population in Jamaica only because that's a big history piece in the history. A lot of influx of Koreans came over as indentured people. Could have been many different things of ways why they came over there, and they were promised land and opportunity while they were in the land. So there's like a huge the Asian population, especially the Chinese, they have a big impact on our foods. They're very much intertwined into our history. Um, and I see that with my last name Young and my father and my grandfather. I didn't really understand that until I got older. Uh, Next, I take a really, 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 really big pride in the time period that I'm in my life is really understanding the African diaspora and where different parts of the enslavement transatlantic slave ship had touched different portions only because I've seen how big Jamaican history was and how it ties to things that I didn't know. Because growing up, I used to think Marcus Garvey was just our national hero. I didn't think he was like the world's national hero. I didn't even think that he was here. And then coming to America and learning the history and seeing how rooted that he was here, I'm just like, wow, he really was a big deal. Like I didn't see how interconnected we were. So just digging different pieces and seeing how we all came together to make different changes that is kind of hidden from us. So I'm really passionate about learning history and making sure that my community know history. Um, the Rastafarian, as I mentioned, is very, very big in the way that I eat now, the way that I see things. Um, I know it's cliche, but watching the Bob Marley movie after my dad had passed, like really, it did something profound because I don't think it really was explained on a big stage. And just to see that it was like explained in a way that was like welcoming and like it actually, this is who they are and what they're about. Like, so that was really exciting for me. Um, like Trey, Sunday dinners are always a big deal. It doesn't matter if it's a holiday or not. Sunday is the best day. Um, Big meals, even for just a regular day. But when it's Christmas or if it falls on a holiday, it's extra, extra special. Easter in particular, and it's coming up. We have bun and cheese, and I am so excited. If you know anything about that, it does come from our English background from the British colonizing us, but we have made it our own. And even the cheese is like amazing. Like I have to have the specific cheese. You can't eat it with any other cheese but the Jamaican cheese.
Are you making it?
Oh, no, but I should.
Ah,
Seeing it on TikTok and I'm like, oh, if it's that easy, because you never know. Like in my mind, just that's another thing with TikTok or just social media when they're making pieces from scratch because it's been sold to you like patties just been sold as a natural thing. Like you never really think like these people were making it from scratch. Obviously, they had to have, I don't know, it's mind blowing. Like, duh, you can make these things from scratch. But our generation have become so lazy that we're thinking, oh, you just buy it from the store. But it's like, no, this is from scratch. Um, but I'll keep you in mind for that because I've been seeing it and I want to try it. I don't think the cheese can be made here, but um, that's something for me to do research. Ah, So that's very exciting. Even Christmas too, Christmas with sorrow, that even just understanding that sorrow is not just something that's filled with a lot of liquor, but it actually helps with your blood pressure if you remove the liquor. But that's something that's always, and like Trey said, like there is something called red juice. No, I don't know. Some type of red
Nah.
juice in the South, like um it could be Kool-Aid. I don't remember, but I was
Oh
like,
yeah, yeah. You talking about Kool-Aid. Kool-Aid and it's red. It's just red or it's purple or it's green. It's I
is
think
it
you're
just
talking
Kool-Aid? Or is it like a specific type of juice that you would make?
I mean red juice. I'm assuming you're talking about cool. That's the only red
Okay.
juice I
No,
know.
no, no. I'm only saying this because I seen something when I was like connecting the maps, how like the Southern, they have the rice and beans, but that's similar to the rice and peas. And then like the red juice is like the sorrow. Like we're all making different things, but it's so similar, but in different ways. And obviously by colonization and the separation. So I always thought that was like pretty cool to like see how connected we really are, even though we're kind of separated or divided, not intentionally, maybe politically, not intentionally, but also education was very important. Um, my father was very, very big on making sure that his daughters amount to very great things. Very strict. I think I was reading from the age of 3. I knew my times table by the age of like 5. Like he was very, very, very specific of making sure that we knew how to read. Um, it's funny because the more now that he's passed, like people talk about him a lot more. And I was telling my brother-in-law how my father had me doing all of these things. Like I was studying, but he was always preparing me for my GSAT. And a GSAT in Jamaica is when it's kind of like the CMTs, but I don't know if they do CMTs anymore, but like how you get into a high school. So you do this around 6th grade to 7th grade, I think starts like the first form of high school there. Um, And he just had me practicing the times table, reading all of this. And all he kept telling me was like, I'm preparing you for your GSAT. I'm preparing you for your GSAT. And I'm like, I don't know what that was, but I knew it was like a big deal. And I knew I had to take it. And then my brother-in-law was like, Tina, you take that at 12. And I'm like, oh, I did not know that. So all this time I'm thinking it's something that's coming close, but he had me so far ahead. And now that I'm older, I definitely see the strides and like how I'm very hands-on and making sure that I understand it from our reading sessions. Like I definitely see his ways now that I get older and just seeing the importance of education. um, I have a small history crush on Frederick Douglass right now. I don't think they tell us enough about him, but it makes me think about how important education was for him. And once you learn how to read, you really would be free. And so just understanding how much, if you really know your history and you really know the foundation, you will be a lot more free mentally, even if you're physically in chains. Um, yeah. Do I have anything next? Oh, so obviously you can probably see that I love my dad. I'm a daddy's girl because I'm talking about him a lot. My mom very much was the nurturer, but she made sure that we were more strong women. My dad took care of the more. Um, she was a disciplinary. My dad is the person that we kind of did a lot of great things with, or funny things with, or hung out with. It wasn't so serious. Um, but my dad, he was very intentional when he named me and my sisters. And it's odd because my sister name means the rebel. And now that I'm older, she is rebellious. Like she's always been rebellious since she was a child. Like she'll rebel against something good. That's how rebellious she is. And we didn't know that until I was going through a season where I was trying to find purpose after college. And part of that is like trying to figure out your name. And so anytime I do programs with kids, like that's very important of figuring out your name because you are who you become. Kind of like the first slide, you are who we are. We are who we are. Um, so figuring out my name and then understanding my dad, it was like, oh my gosh, it makes so much sense. But my name initially means the Most High and a follower of Christ. Um, he had big visions for me, but he was very specific on making sure that it was all wise. I'm not really sure because none of his other kids have, um, they have unique names, but it's not why. And he waited until I was out of the hospital. My first birth certificate says Baby Young because that was my name, and they still call me Baby. And I'm obviously still the baby of the family. But when he came up with it, like he went around, he kept asking, like, have you ever heard this name before? Actually, my brother told me this when I went back recently. He just was trying to find the perfect name until he finally figured out it was Yateena. And for he would tell my mom, like, this name, Triple Y, is going to be on a building. And so, because of that, ever since I was young, I've always been searching for this building. I've been looking for this building, and it may not be physical, but just the thought of him putting this huge accomplishment on me on my future or like pushing me to see things bigger that's not really there. I always kept that with me. And now that he's not here, I kind of hold on to that, still looking for this building. Because he's always said, like, your name is going to be great. Like this name is going to be great. And I named you because of this. And now that we're older, like my sister is so rebellious, she's so fearless, and I'm the calmer, more gentle, light person that's gonna like sit and listen, not being competitive. And it's so weird how we balance out because like if someone is trying to defend the family, that's my sister. But if somebody's trying to be rational and actually like make decisions, be the mediator, that's me. And it's like so interesting how our names kind of bond with each other. Um, next. I think that's it. You can take
Yes,
the trail.
yeah. So I just want to say, it's good to hear, we spoke and we speak, especially because we do the program, but it's good to kind of hear some of the background of some of those stories because it starts to make sense, it forms like some of the things form where you're able to see how and why, triple why you ask a lot of questions, why this, why that.
Yeah.
So, which is awesome.
It's
Um,
funny
ki-
because he would say that. Like, that's why he had the intent of me being a lawyer.
yeah,
And I'm probably gonna circle back around to that. But like you ask a lot of questions. Always question why. Always ask why. And I'm like,
right.
interesting. And
So it's cool and it's pretty as we're wrapping up, this is the last slide. But it's pretty cool when you get to sit and realize, that our past, to know your future, you have to know your past. And I think a lot of times with our youth today, our youth are disconnected from their past for various reasons. It's no reason to place blame or anything like that, but as a community and as a society, we have to do a better job with reconnecting those roots. Even if you don't agree with the roots, even if you don't agree with what your past was, you still have to know it so you can embrace it and find your identity within it. So why heritage and culture is important is just because of that, right? Like we're shaped to become who we are. Yateena's father told her, your name's gonna be on a building. So, you know, to hear that as a child, it's a metaphoric building. It's not even a physical one yet. It's a metaphor for how you see yourself, which is the next point is it gives us a sense of belonging and confidence and pride in who you are and what you are. I believe if we tell these young kids or teenagers or whatever, adolescents, young adults, you tell them or instill confidence and you let them know that they belong here, they have a purpose. You have a purpose because look at your past. And it could be a terrible past. It might not be the past that they want to acknowledge, but guess what? in order to make in order to be successful, you have to fail along the lines. So I think seeing some of that sometimes helps, or seeing that my great my grandfather was a principal, and having him sit in my classrooms with me, popping in randomly and sitting in our classrooms to make sure we're paying attention and doing our work, gave me a sense to know how important education was to him, because he was a principal. He had other things to deal with, but he's sitting in his grandkids' schools, making sure they know how important it is to them. So, um, essentially that's kind of why we did this today, not to talk all about ourselves, even though it was pretty nice and fun, but just to let everyone know that it's important to share these stories when you have a moment, whether it's over dinner, or it's on the ride to school, or a text message, because at some point these kids are going to grow up and they're going to ask the questions that maybe they didn't get the answers to, which can be good because it will show their intuitiveness to where, so they know where they want to go. But it's always better to allow kids to know where they came from, just so you're giving them a leg up in our communities and our societies.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see me.
I can see you.
Um to that point, yes, there is statistically known that children of color, they tend to do more if they know more about themselves. Because if they're looking at history and it's all they've been seeing as them being enslaved and none of the other great amazing things that they have done, they carry and walk around with
Right,
knowledge of this is what I am to this country.
right.
Versus like if they, and to that point too, I've been really connecting with elders in the community because that's where you really get to understand the wisdom, because storytelling, which is a big piece of this, has been lost in the Black community. And that's been one of the ways that we used to connect. We passed down our oral history, but it's not as big as it once was. The importance of storytelling kind of went out the window. But if we are more focused on trying to make sure that our kids have more access to knowledge that doesn't just show them as enslaved people, or war on drugs, or any of the things that make them seem or lessen their self-esteem, they're more likely to be beneficial or do more beneficial things or productive. Actually, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but they're
No,
more
you're right.
likely to be productive, be vital citizens in their society, and pursue their purpose and their passion once they understand the importance of them being here. Like anyone, like the more
Right.
you know, and that if my father didn't say that, I don't know what life I would have lived. But like him saying that, and my mom still reminds me every time I do something, um, amazing to them. Like your dad did say it's gonna be some amazing things. Like she keeps reminding me. And I just think of like someone is reminding
Yeah,
me on my path, even though he's not here. And like I like doing that for the kids. Like elders should be able to do that for the youth. Allow them to see their path. Okay. That's it.
absolutely. And
Miss
um,
Fruits.
I just want to say that speaking on your cultural point, when I found out about Mansa Musa, I realized how important we were to our communities, and how important we were to just society in general. So, with that being said, if there's anyone that has any questions that's out there that wants to speak, please ask away. If you have questions or thoughts, I believe you can email or reach out to your school representative if you're interested. We also have our programs on the second and third Friday of each month up until the end of May. So if you want to see us in person, you can also come and ask questions, or just see
Also,
how the program is.
we will be doing in-person sessions too. So that can also
Yes,
be another way to speak to us.
absolutely. All right. Any questions?
Adios.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for being a part of this, watching this. And like we said, in order to know, your future, you have to know your past. So thank you. And we are signing off. Uh, how do I stop this? Stop sharing. Hold on, I didn't. Hold on, I didn't fully stop it. Hold on, hold on.
Golden.
It's okay. No, I got it. All right.